In this video, we're going to talk about three different kinds of modeling. There is additive, subtractive, and then a combination of those kinds of modeling. So there's three different kinds. So a little bit about solid models. They are CAD models. They are the result of either an additive or a subtractive process. And all solid modeling programs utilize additive and subtractive modeling methods to create virtual three-dimensional objects. Now, these solid models are also referred to as Boolean operations, and that's named after a guy that was in the 18th century. He was an English mathematician named Charles Boole. So the first thing we're going to look at is that a additive model is a three-dimensional object that can be viewed as a combination of two or more simple forms. So in the creation of a real-world object, this method is represented by constructing processes like welding stuff, or gluing things, or fastening things together, or some sort of joinery. So we'll take a look at this slide, and then we're going to go into our Onshape program. So the first step in the additive method is to create a portion of the part with a consistent thickness. So in this instance, that's that red piece in the back. And here's a sketch of what is going to be our first model, and I'm going to show you how to go about doing this. So let's go here. All right. So this is your Onshape program, and you guys have seen in the introduction video already the little tour that we took. So I'm going to go to right below the word Onshape. There is Create, and I'm going to click that. I'm going to select the word Document, and then I'm going to name this document. So I have to put in an appropriate name. So I'm going to put in add space sub space combo space and a dash. And then I'm going to put in my last name, and you will put in your last name. And I'm going to say OK. Now this will take a second to load up, but what it's going to do is it's going to come up with our modeling interface, and it's going to have on it what we call work planes. Now, how we think of work planes is a work plane is kind of like the top of your desk. Let's say you're going to draw something with a pencil and paper. Well, the work plane is the top of your desk, and then we're going to add to a work plane what is called a sketch. And sketch is right here. It's below the word Onshape and just to the right. And I'm going to click on that. Now, what it's asking me to do here, see the blue box? That blue box is the box where it's kind of telling you the next little bit of information that the software needs to do whatever it is you're going to work on. So I'm going to, it says sketch plane here. It wants to know where to put a sketch plane. And in this instance, you can put it on almost any of these, but in this instance, and generally I like to start with the front view. So I would say for right now, just always use the front view, okay? So I've clicked on that, and you see it added a bigger rectangle there that says sketch 1 in the upper left corner. You'll also notice over here in our model tree that we now have sketch 1 in our model tree. Now, I want to look at sketch 1. This is called an isometric view right now. I want to look at sketch 1 head on. So I'm going to right click on my mouse out here in the graphics screen, and I'm going to go to the bottom, and it's going to say view normal to sketch plane. Now, a couple things on here. These blue lines, those are the work planes. And then in the middle is a little black circle with a dot in the middle of it. We call that the origin. And we're going to use the origin to do quite a lot of our drawing, actually. So I am going to go back to the PowerPoint for a moment. See? And back to the PowerPoint on your screen. There we go. And we'll get our sketch back up here. And it says the following thing, that we are 1.5 inches tall, and we go over 1.5 inches. We go down 0.75, and that's this number here, and then we come over 0.75 and then down straight and back again. So we're going to do what's called create a sketch, and we're going to use these dimensions to create the sketch. So it's up 1.5, over, down 750, over 750, down, well, what will actually be another 750, and then back to the original spot. So back to our Onshape software. All right, so sketch 1 is active, and I'm going to put a line on here, and I'm going to click line, and I'm going to come to the origin, and you'll see it turn orange when I get there. I'm going to click, I'm going to pull up, and to the left of the line is going to be some numbers, and I'm going to just move my line up until I'm pretty close to 1.75, and I'm just going to left click, and then I'm going to go to the right another 1.75, and you'll notice these numbers aren't perfect. Okay, and I'm going to come down 0.75, and I'm going to go over, and just to show you how this is going to change, I can go over a whole bunch. Okay, now I'm going to come straight down, and what's going to happen here is, I don't know if this will show on the screen, but I've got like a little dashed line, okay? And that dashed line is an inference. And what it was doing was, it was telling me that this point that I just left clicked with is now completely in line with the point where I started. Okay. Now I got to put some dimensions on here. So the dimension tool is right up here. When I put my cursor on it, it'll say dimension. You can also, by the way, if you want to exit the command, just hit escape. You can also just type the letter D on your keyboard, and that's called a shortcut. Now, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to dimension this line. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. I can go from this point here to this one here. So I'll do that. And you'll see it puts a dimension on here of 1.744. I'm going to press escape. Okay. And by the way, if I want to get rid of something, I want to undo it, there's an undo arrow up here. Or I can press the letter D on my keyboard and just touch this line someplace and pull it out. That's really kind of my preferred method for this. And then I'll put in 1.75 as a number. Now I'm going to do the same thing up here. 1.75, and I'll click on this line and pull it way out here. Then this is 0.75, and then this is, and what you'll notice is that lines are turning colors here. Right now, this line on the right hand side, that is blue, and what that means is that I can take and click on that line and pull it in and move it around. Now I'm going to put a dimension on here, so I'll hit the dimension icon, and I'll click on this line, and I'll bring this up, and that is supposed to be 0.75 inches also. And that gives me what's called a fully constrained sketch, which is important. It's fully constrained because all of these lines are black. I shouldn't be able to put my cursor on any of these lines, click and hold, and move this thing. Now I'm going to hit the check mark here because that closes out my sketch. The next thing is I want to go back to that isometric view that I had at the beginning. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. One is I can right click on my graphics area, and say isometric. But if that doesn't work for some reason, I can go to this area right below the view cube. I can also use the view cube for this, but I'm going to show you this camera and render options dialog box. I'm going to click on that, and right at the top is isometric. So we still have these work planes on. I want to turn these off because this is getting pretty busy here. Now the way to go about doing that is I just put my cursor on the word top here, and you'll see a little eyeball appear, and I'll click on that, and that makes those work planes disappear. So that makes life a bit simpler. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to give this thing thickness. Okay, so if I go back to our PowerPoint, I believe that, yes, our thickness is going to be 0.75 inches. That's what they're telling us down here. So back to Onshape. All right, now to bring this in, I can scroll in with my mouse wheel, or I can double click on the mouse wheel and it will maximize the screen. I'm going to press this command right here. This is called extrude. Now the shortcut for this is the Shift key and E. I'll just click on that right now. And we're going to work from top to bottom in these dialog boxes. So the first thing is we are going to make a solid. So leave solid highlighted. It's new, so we'll leave new. And then it asks us for faces and regions to extrude. Now the way you go about doing that is you bring your cursor out here onto the part, and you'll notice that it highlighted all the way around in orange. Now when I left click, it actually extrudes that out. This is the type of extrusion. So there's multiple different kinds. There's blind, which is what we're going to use. There's something called symmetric. I'll click on that one so you can see it. And you can see that it takes our sketch and it goes to the front and back of our part. I'll leave it at blind right now. And then there's up to next and face, and you'll see all of these used eventually, or you can try them yourself. Now depth. This is how thick I want this part to be. And I want this part to be 0.75 inches thick. And then I'm going to green check mark. And that brings our part out thickness wise. I'll double click with my center mouse wheel to have this poke all the way out. All right, now back to our PowerPoint show. So we're going to add to this part now. This is why it's called additive. And we're going to add a portion of the part, this blue piece, to the part that we already have here. So we're going to make what's called a sketch plane on the front flat surface of this cube. And then I'm going to sketch the rectangle, or well, it's square, but we'll call it rectangle. That's the command we're going to use. And we're going to put it right on that sketch face. And then we're going to dimension it. So back to our software. Okay. So here we go. This is going to be our desktop. This is now the equivalent of the work plane, this front surface. You can see I put my cursor on and it's kind of highlighted. I'm going to go and I'm going to select the word sketch. And it's asking me for the sketch plane. So it wants to know what surface this is going to be drawn on our sketch. And it's going to be this flat surface right here. So I select it. And you can see it says sketch 2 up here now. And if you look in the model tree, you'll see the word sketch 2. And remember, we just did the extrude of this thing. There is the extrude for our initial block, part of the block. All right. Now, I'm going to use another command. This is called rectangle. And this is, even though we're drawing a square, this is called rectangle. So I'm going to right click, do normal to, and then I'm going to use the rectangle tool right here. And I'm going to come down, and what you'll notice is when I get close with my little crosshair to the actual corner, it turns orange. And I'm going to left click. It's called a snap. And I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to click one time. Now I'm not moving my mouse, but what you'll see is the bottom dimension has a box around it right now. And that means that instead of putting in the dimensions, using the dimension tool, what I can do is type in 0.75 and hit enter. And then it's going to go right to the other one. And you'll notice that that line on the right hand side turned black, which means it's fully constrained. And then the one at the top is blue still, but I've got the box on the left hand side now that I can put in 0.75 and hit enter. And now I've got my cube completely dimensioned. So I'm going to do this green check mark, which is a confirmation. And I'm going to, well, you know what I'll do just to show you? I'm going to go to the cube, and I like to use the corners of the cube. And I'm just going to flip that around until it's so that the front face is facing me. You can click any of these corners. You can get this bottom corner if you like. But anyways. All right, now this little cube has to be added to our model. So I'm going to go to extrude, and I'm going to start at the top. This is a solid, but it's not a new piece. This is an add. Region and face and region to extrude. That's going to be, I'm going to bring my cursor down and put it inside of that 0.75 square. I'm going to click, and it comes poking out towards me in a preview. This is going to be a blind extrusion, and the depth is going to be 0.75. And then I'm going to green check mark. So that, I believe, is the end of that part. Double check. Yep, that's it. Next up is going to be subtractive. But what I want you to do now is I want you, your turn, to draw, if you haven't already been doing it, to draw this cube.